The kettlebell swing is a ballistic kettlebell movement, meaning you're going to use an explosive force to drive the kettlebell away from your body. It starts like a hip hinge, but when you pick up the kettlebell, you hike it instead of just lifting it. Here you can see what the movement looks like, but we're about to break it down. The first step is learning how to get proper foot placement. I like to get my foot's distance away from the bell and then a little wider than my hips apart. And you want to start by practicing hiking the bell. This involves karate chopping your forearms into your inner thighs and sending that kettlebell behind you. You see how you can totally see the kettlebell behind me? That means I'm hiking it far enough back. And it wants to be pretty close to my groin when I do that hike. Next is projecting the bell. So you want to use enough force when you hike the kettlebell back that when you stand up, you're able to fling it away from your body. Here you can see what the hike into the projection looks like. If you're having a hard time getting your mind around it, I want you to just try to hike your arms back by karate chopping your inner thighs and then standing up and squeezing the glutes really hard to see how much force it takes to throw your arms up. It really isn't that much. So we're going to apply that to the kettlebell again. Don't forget to set up properly. Get your ribs over your hips, brace your core, hinge down properly. And you want to have a nice triangle where your shoulders are above your hips and your hips are above your knees. You always want to make sure that you start in that starting position with the hips above the shoulders above the hips, and the hips above your knees. So when you go to do that swing, in addition to making sure that your shoulders are above your hips, you want to make sure that your arms are packed into the shoulder sockets. And then you take off and do your swing. This helps to ensure that your lat muscles on your back are actually working in the swing. Something that I want to go over are a few common issues I see when people do the swing. The first is skipping the setup. That's not any good. Oftentimes you'll see people pick up a kettlebell and do a little hip thrust to get that swing going. As appealing as it is to skip having to bend over to pick it up, don't, because it can put tension on your lower back if you start with that thrust. The other thing is, here we go, hiking it properly, and you can see that you can really get the momentum. But another common thing I see is hiking the kettlebell too low. And when that happens, the body doesn't sink properly. And the upper body and lower body don't move at the same speed, and the upper back can often round as well. So you want to make sure that you hike that bell up really high before you project it so it's able to have that path right up. Think the higher you start, the higher it's going to end up. So we want to hike up really high and send the arms up high. You also want to make sure that you don't head dive and end up really rounding your back and pulling yourself over. If you had a heavy weight, you could even potentially topple over. You want to make sure that you're kind of gazing maybe 8 to 10 feet in front of you and not looking at your kettlebell, but looking in front of you. If you look down towards your feet, you'll get too much rounding of that upper spine.